to have presentations, brief statements, some questions, some comments, observations. Very interested to hear what you have to say. Oh. Turn our light, the mic was on. I'm acting like it's my first rodeo. We have Xavier students who will be doing just brief presentations. We're hoping to get time for everyone. After this meeting, we're also going to be having a committee of the whole, and so additional students will be speaking at that meeting as well. So, Chief, if you can go ahead and get us started.
All right, thank you. I'll try to make this brief. We got a stacked house here. All right, so we we introduced the question about tasers. I'll go through this PowerPoint, this paper when I don't have anything on the board for you, but you should have a copy of that. This was made up by Lieutenant Klinghoffer back in March after he went through the police executive leadership class about the implementation of tasers. And just to give you a brief overview of, we haven't had tasers since about 2013, so about 13 years. We're probably the only police department in Hamilton County that do not have tasers. For whatever reason back then, I think there was a lot of inconsistencies with them. This when they first came out, they really weren't living up to what the manufacturer said that they would be. Plus the cost was outrageous. We didn't have a budget back then. So I guess they forewent it and just didn't renew the tasers. So right now we rely on traditional force methods, which does increase officer risks. It increases officer safety, and it can create risk to the subjects that we're dealing with. Tasers, they do provide a less lethal force option that's used by over 90% of law enforcement agencies. And again, when you compare that, when you squash that down into Hamilton County, I believe that we probably are the only, out of 42, 43 police agencies, we are the only ones that do not carry those. So this presentation, it's going to outline some benefits, some strategies, and obviously some challenges. Right now, our current situation, we use physical restraint with our hands, we use pepper spray, we use batons, and if need be, we will use our firearm. So these methods, they do increase injury risks for officers and suspects because with those three, we have to be in very close proximity for them to be effective, whether it's a baton or OC spray. And when we get to the tasers, and I'll just kind of preference the videos that I sent you, an officer, time and space is our friend. When you're in close quarters, it's not. That's always a risky situation. So therefore, because we don't have those, we lack the intermediate force options, which can lead to split-second decisions in high-risk situations, and that sometimes cannot be a good thing. Moving on, so the benefits of them, obviously, it reduces injuries to officer and suspects. It doesn't have an injury effect on a person when a taser is deployed. It's a momentarily neuromuscular breakdown between two probes, so it doesn't shock the whole body. If you have to be effective with two probes, preferably in the lower body, and the electricity will go from one probe to the other and cause a neuro shock and then make you basically lose control. And that lasts for up to 4 to 5 seconds. So they are a safer alternate to physical confrontation. They enhance the officer's confidence in handling volatile situations. And I'm sure the first video that you saw of the elevator video, that was a pretty chaotic scene. There was no taser there involved. So the only options that those officers had was either your firearm, a baton, or mace, OC spray, and neither of those is a good option when you're in that tight of a confined spot with especially all the other stuff that was going on. And it also will act as a deterrent too. So with these new ones, you can turn it on, and we'll talk about de-escalation techniques. But you can turn it on, just have it in your hand and flash and it spark. There is an effect where people will see that no one likes be shocked with electricity, so they would be more apt to comply than just an officer standing there with nothing in their hands. So getting these also, it demonstrates the city's support for officer safety and the community. The implementation plan, obviously training. We did schedule a demo with Axon back in March. The safety service director was there. A lot of our command staff was there, and it was a pretty phenomenal demo, which kind of turned his opinion on tasers as well. Because at first we've had that conversation about 3 years ago, Noah and I, and he was kind of on the fence with it. After he saw that demonstration, he believed that it would be a tool worth its value. Obviously, stakeholder engagement, public officials, city councils need to be involved in this and have to understand, what we're asking for. Transparent policies on taser use and accountability. These would fall right into our current use of force plan. Nothing would really change. And because it's such a low, less lethal option, it would ride right around the same level as OC spray. So it's not higher on the chart, it's not lower on the chart. Whatever an officer would be authorized to use as OC spray, he would be authorized to use a taser if need be. Obviously, the budget constraints and due to the FRP kind of creates a problem, at least moving forward for the next 5 years. The cost of the tasers, $221,000 over a 5-year period. That equals about $44,000 a month. I'm sorry, $44,000 a year. And that outfits every police officer with the taser. So unlike body cams, we only have 26 body worn cameras right now. So every time an officer's on patrol out here working, they have a body cam. The officers that are working extra detail, like a Xavier traffic detail, Rookwood detail, they do not have a body cam because we don't have enough for 49 people. The tasers, everyone would have an issued taser. This covers 45 officers to have a taser on them at all times. The price also covers all the training. They have a state-of-the-art virtual reality training. We have to be certified in this, multiple training sessions, so many hours per year. We have to have instructors. So there is rigorous trainings and certifications that we must meet to be able to function with these. There are no grants right now for this. That's Axon's. They're the only manufacturer of tasers, so that's who we have to go through. They don't have any other financing options. And then the evaluation and metrics for success, obviously the funding. So the goal here is to purchase, at least my plan, unless there's another plan. Because this wasn't a budgeted item for 2026, it allows me to purchase 1 year of this with our equitable sharing funds from the federal government. They have, because it's federal money that comes in that can't be budgeted, it has to only be used for law enforcement purposes, stuff like this. It's not to use to supplant a budget. It's to use for things that are not budgeting. So this was not budgeting, so I would be authorized to do this. But if I put this in for the budget in 2027, 28, and 29, then that would have to be covered by the general fund. I would not be able to use those equitable sharing funds once we budget this out. It's a very streamlined process on what they allow us to use the money for. The deployments would be tracked just like our regular use of force reports. Those are thoroughly documented. There's multiple steps of review until it comes to my desk. And as you know, I come in here every March and every April and tout our low use of force numbers, and that's always a benchmark. Obviously those can change. They can go up to 20 to 30 next year, not to say that anything's wrong or now we're doing anything wrong or bad, but those are low numbers. Do I think that with these tasers, those numbers are going to jump up? Probably, but not very much. They may spike. And then once the review process goes into play and we start seeing these coming in, then it's probably going to go back down. And I don't want to put an officer's safety, an officer's lives in jeopardy just based on numbers either. So if they are being used, as long as they're being used right, it doesn't really matter what those numbers are, whether it's 7 a year or 15 a year. We'll just like our use of force reports, we do the audits. We'll have officer feedbacks. The supervisors are mandated that they go through and watch body cam footage once a month. They have to watch like 3 to 5 videos of each officer per month. And it's recommended that it's not necessarily like on a offense, but just what the officer is engaged in on a day-to-day basis. So like if he makes a traffic stop and cautions that driver, that's probably something that we want to see how he's interacting with that driver. Same way if he goes and takes a report, but body cams are always being reviewed for compliance and policy compliance and for accountability. And so to make this work, obviously we're going to need strong leadership to make sure that people are held accountable, make sure policies are being followed. Training, I have no doubt the training's got to be ongoing. We spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of hours training. That's what we're big on. So this package provides everything, provides all the not only the VR, the training suit, but inert training cartridges, body suits, chargers, everything that we need to make this function. It comes in the package. Leadership must champion the officer safety and accountability. So that's pretty much it for that. And the reason why I'm here is because obviously the videos that I sent you, and it's not to criticize anybody's or the outcome of it, but it's to show different scenarios and kind of Monday morning quarterback it to say, okay, if you were in that position and had a taser, there might have been a different outcome. So the elevator obviously was a disaster. It was a mess. You had somebody that's non-compliant. There's a lot of things that you saw in that video, or a lot of things that you did not see in that video prior to your clip. And that was, the officers took probably 22 to 25 minutes of trying to talk to this person, walking around the buildings, talking to the callers, talking to mobile crisis, trying to figure out what's going on here before any hands went on the person. When obviously you saw the incident start, you saw how the incident occurred, how it was over, and you had, if you was to say, okay, well, if an officer had a taser there, that the outcome may have been different. And the reason why I say that is because you had a massively obese person that was obviously going through some mental distress. You had 3 big, healthy, strong, physically fit police officers, and they all basically wrestled. Those no strikes were given. It was just basically a wrestling. All 4 people got to the point of total body exertion, right? Which obviously led to what happened. If you would have said, okay, well, if there was an officer there with the taser, that person could have stepped back, activated that taser, and instead of that person wrestling for 4 to 5 minutes, exerting everything in him, he would have got a 4-second shot. May have complied even before he got a taser deployed, but the outcome could have been different. That's in an area where there is no space, right? So when you're in that type of area, obviously they did what they needed to do. They sprayed them with OC spray, but when you do that, you're also doing that to yourself, right? Because the whole idea of macing somebody is to shut their eyes down so you can get control of them. But when you do that, the officers are also getting the back spray, and they're doing the same thing to themselves as they're doing to them. So on the second incident, the one down at the south end with the knife, that is one where if an officer had a taser, and that's why I'm here, is because when I watched that video, it made me sick to my stomach, because the first thing that I thought of is, well, why are we so close to this individual when he's holding an 8-inch knife, right? Or why are we four feet away from him? If we had the taser, we could have maintained that distance. We could have stepped back. We could have seen if he complied, and we could have deployed the taser, which would have dropped him dropped the knife, and maybe he wouldn't have applied injury to himself. So that's one that really caught me, and that's when I started looking back, and I'm like, we need to do something. We can't have officers 4 feet away from somebody that has a knife. And what you didn't see on that video is that was the night of, I guess, the Xavier Derby or whatever they were doing. Well, there was a group of students off camera over to the right, and that's the way this person was going. So when you see the police car kind of pull in front and kind of stop, which looks like he's striking the individual, he's not. He's just trying to put the cruiser in between this person and the group of people over there. So the officers are going to get a life-saving award for that because the camera went off, but they did a phenomenal job of packing that wound with gauze. They got real dirty. They kept his hopes up, told him he wasn't going to die, and he was back on campus within 2 days. But that could have been different for an officer's sake by not getting that close to that type of danger. So that's what made me kind of look back and think to myself, what are we doing here? Why don't we have this weapon when everyone else in the country has it? Everyone else in Hamilton County has it. And I will say that, it's worked without it up until a point where it doesn't work. You know what I mean? So if we have to use deadly force on something, that's always going to be a question that I don't want to stand up here and answer is, well, why didn't you tase him? And I don't want to have to say, well, because we don't have tasers. Because then they're going to make phone calls and they're going to come back and be like, well, every other department in the county has tasers. Why don't you guys have tasers? Well, I don't know why we've got tasers. We got rid of them 12 years ago and never got them back. So that's kind of why we're here, is to give officers the distance, give them another tool that they can use and manage in these type of spaces. Because just spraying somebody with mace, getting that close to them, that's putting a lot of people in danger. Do you have any questions for me? That's where we're at.
So I think just a couple of things. I was trying to follow on the federal money part. I think what you were saying is that for fiscal 26, that would be federally covered, let's just say. But then for the subsequent 4 years, it would need to be a line item in Norwood's capital expenditure budget? Or
yes, it would. Yeah, there's a very streamlined of permissible uses for the federal money and not. Yeah. And it's not to, like I said, it's not to supplant or a budget where, if you look at the account, and I'm just throwing numbers out, and you say, okay, well, you've got $500,000 in there, so we're going to cut your budget by $500,000. That's not allowable. So they would actually take that money back and cut us off. So it's to be used for things that aren't necessarily budgeted, things that you would say that the city government itself is supposed to supply their police officers.
So to be specific, I'm looking at the budget right here for police crime control. So we couldn't use those funds to say, oh, well, we've got $30,000 for a roof repair for the police department. Let's just use those funds instead.
Yeah,
this is sort of an extra budget sort of item, if you will, that's above and beyond the normal scope.
Yeah, because we receive that money because we have a member of our department that is tasked to the federal government, the DEA, and they go out and they assist with drug investigations all over the country. Yeah. Whenever those arrests or proceeds or whatever it is that they do gets through the system, gets to a forfeiture thing, we get a certain percentage of that based on how much the officer was involved in that investigation, if that makes any sense. Yes. And that's why you can't really budget for that, because we have no idea how much money is going to come in. Last year, we didn't have any money come in. And then this year, a couple thousand came in here, a couple thousand came in this month. So those cases can be backlogged 5 to 7 to 10 years based on how the federal government does their forfeiture and drug cases. But they do have a guide which tells you, it spells out specifically what those funds can be used for and what they cannot be used for.
So is your expectation that you either know or you expect to have, let's say, $45,000 next year? That would be the year one installment for this?
Yeah, I have. There's enough in there right now that it would be comfortable that I could pay year one of this.
Okay, got it. And then I guess my other question would be, if I remember from your report in April, I think it was like pretty line items, like line item detail in terms of, I'm going to make this up, baton usage or
Yes.
firearms or, wrestling match or,
Sure.
If so, in theory, if we expect that number might increase in the aggregate, we would still kind of have line item detail to say, well, taser use was up in year one, but spray was down, baton use was like we would see other things come down in theory, even if like the introduction of the taser. Saw
Because I graph it like that to kind of give an overall of what type of force we're using, if that makes sense. Because if you look at this sheet here in your email, this is what's called like a use of force continuum, right? So this is kind of a benchmark of whatever the subject is doing is versus the officer's response. And this is a national thing where whatever action the subject is doing, an officer should be one step above that on the other side. But yes, and if you look over here in the agency tools, wherever there's OC spray or baton or even hands-on, there's a taser. But yes, to your question, it would be listed exactly which instrument or what type of force was used, whether it's hands, baton, taser, OC spray.
Got it. So that would create some measure of transparency, not that we want to be policing to the spreadsheet, right? But
Right.
that would at least give us some measure of transparency to say, hey, we thought we might use this 20 times. We used these things 100 times, right? And that was,
Right.
maybe incremental training or whatever is needed as we go to year two of the program.
Yeah. The only thing that probably would not be categorized if there was like a de-escalation moment, right? So you pull the taser out.
It's intimidated.
Yeah,
but not
and
actually
the guy's
deployed.
like, okay, I'm good. That's not going to be measurable, but an actual use of it would be.
Yeah. Thank you.
So can you talk a little bit more about I see here it's a 60-month out quote. What happens after that 60-month? What happens when we need to upgrade the system? I'm assuming that these become obsolete, like televisions do, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, they always come out with a new model. So basically, probably in year 4, they'll come out with a refresh. If there is a new model out, we will get those for free. And then when year 5 comes, when this lease is almost up, probably 6 to 8 months before that, they will come in and say, this is our new equipment, all that stuff. This is the new price. It may be the same, it may not. I don't know.
And the hope at that point is that we could roll that into our general budget.
Yes.
So in a way, like I know a big line item for 26 is replacement of the radio equipment for
Yes.
both you and the fire department. So in a way, this is by starting this, it does become a bit of like a perpetual liability for the city to have continuity in how we outfit our officers.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in a way, by agreeing to this is agreeing to, let's just say, $45,000+ a year, sort of in perpetuity as an expense for the city for the reinforcement of our officers and how they go out every day.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm shocked that you've been this long without them. Shocking.
I agree. And, like I said, it works until it doesn't. And we've been very blessed and thankful that it hasn't escalated to a level where, we had to use deadly force. I mean, the last time we had to use deadly force with a firearm was probably 21 years ago. It's been a long time. And, not too many departments can say that. So,
Shocked. Shocked.
I that's why, I think it's an officer safety measurement. Obviously, that's the main reason why we need to do this. Like I said, when I reviewed that second video and saw the officers in that close proximity to the person with the knife, I'm like, what are we doing here? This is just, I mean, we're waiting for a disaster to happen. And even both of those videos, if we would have used deadly force in both of those videos, we would have 100% been justified. But then you would have, the people that say, well, why didn't you use a taser? You were standing, 15 feet away from this person. But these new tasers now, I will say, I don't know 100% about them, but I will say that when I say time and space is our friend, the tasers that we used to have when they first came out, there is a known study that says that if you're 21 feet away from you to me and you take off after me, you can pull a knife and stab me before my brain understands what's happening for me to draw my firearm and fire. The first tasers, that was the maximum distance for those was 21 feet. The technology is so advanced now it's up to 41 feet with 90% accuracy. So when I say time is good to us in distance, we can, if we need to back up, we back up. And it's 90% accurate at 40 something feet. Each cartridge holds basically 10 probes. So you have to pull the trigger for one probe. You have to pull the trigger again for another probe. Once those probes hit, and obviously there's parts on the body that you're not supposed to aim at, then that's when it does the NMI and causes temporary dysfunction. So they are 100% better than the first ones. The first ones, you pulled the trigger once, 2 barbs came out, and you had no idea which way they were going. Apparently, these are pinpoint accuracy. So, that can give the officer time to sit, to figure out what's happening, advise a plan. If they need to deploy one, they can deploy one with precision, without having to be 3 feet from somebody. And the only option is OC spray.
Another thing I just wanted to mention, I'm a mental health therapist, and I think probably everyone knows that. And in my first early years, I worked in psych emergency at University Hospital and did mobile crisis runs. And watching those videos, one of the things that really struck me was the fact that both of these situations were mental health crises. And officers did reach out for backup. They did reach out. Mobile crisis was on the way for one of them and didn't have enough time. But I was really struck by how engaged the officers were being before things escalated, and that you officers in 2025 are tasked with so many jobs that frankly are not your jobs.
Right.
And being mental health professionals is not a job that should be yours. And yet there you are. And so just wanted to make a note of that. And a question to you guys, to you is a little bit about how do the officers take care of their own mental health? Because those were pretty distressing experiences. And I know that you care very much for your officers, and it would be helpful if you could share a little bit about what resources our officers have. And then if you could just say a little bit about how de-escalation fits in with your overall process.
Sure. Yeah, I'll answer that first. So when you talk about mental health, so other than mobile crisis, because that's who we use, and that is a line item in our policy that they are the people that we call. They're the only ones that we use. We were one of the first, Lieutenant Vickers was one of the first ones in the county to reach out to mobile crisis because they wanted to kind of what you've talked about before, kind of be a responder to these scenes. And they came to us, Lieutenant Vickers talked to them and kind of spearheaded this. So now it's almost countywide. So they do have our radios and they are on our channel. And we don't necessarily have to call them by our cell phone. they monitor the runs that we are on. And if a run comes out and dispatch calls it a mental health run, something of the sort, they will come across our channel and ask us if they want to respond or if they need to respond. And depending on the situation, I mean, it might be somebody that we deal with every single day. We know who they are. We're like, no, we'll take them down, that kind of deal. So they are at the ready for us, and they are monitoring what we are doing. I would have to say that probably when it comes to mental health, we have a lot of young officers, and I will say that, just throwing a number out to you, I would probably say 80 to 90% of our officers are both CIT trained and MHRT trained. That now it's a mandatory class through the police academy. So once they get out of the police academy and they come to us, we don't necessarily have to send them to get certified because they already did it through the police academy.
Can you tell folks what that stands for? CIT?
Crisis Intervention Team and Mental Health Rehabilitation Technician.
Thank you.
I got on my notes here. I knew you were going to ask me that. So, but along with that, there are mandatory training hours that we have to meet through the state of Ohio every year, or we're not allowed to be a peace officer. Within those mandatory hours is crisis intervention training, responding to mental health crisis, veterans in crisis, victims' rights, officer wellness, all that stuff. So when it comes to our officers' wellness, our peer support team is great. We have PEEP. We typically use tri-state peer support. We have a mobile tri-state peer support through the Hamilton County Chiefs of Police that, if needed, we'll call them. They'll reach out to the officer, in secret. So it's no one's business what takes place. But and it is our policy that if they are on a critical incident, that they do get the 3 days off with pay. We'll send them home, whether they say, obviously they're going to say they don't need it. But you never know. I mean, the ones that the first incident of the elevator, they all needed it. It was pretty shocking.
And they did take time.
100% they did. Yes.
And that was supported and encouraged.
Yes.
By...
So we called them out that day, and they went in a room and spoke to each one of them, and then they left. And I know personally that there was some follow-up visits, and they are, some great people that know the law enforcement community. Some of them are retired law enforcement, so it's not like you're talking to a stranger, because we're weird people, right? So you're a
special breed.
Yeah. So we need somebody on the same wavelength that kind of understands what's, the situations that we go through on a day-to-day basis. But yes, they 100% needed it. So it's there. It is encouraged. It is in our policy. And anytime they need it, they can have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
I'm assuming you have a request for us in terms of this taser question, that you would like it to be reported out to council with our support?
Yes.
Is that your request?
Yes. So I do have that. But I will ask, do I need to get this on the FRP before we sign a contract with them if it is approved, since it's going to be a 5-year debt? I would imagine, I think I do. So is this something that you would have to approve first and then we take it to them?
To the finance.
Mr. Moore is our finance committee person, so he probably knows better than us.
Yeah, I would think that it would need to show up on like 27, 28, 29.
Okay.
So we can move forward we can report out at the next council meeting and then have it moved to.
Yeah, because we still haven't passed, a final budget. We've got a pretty good sense of where it is and whatnot, but because this doesn't affect 26, I think it's probably an easier numbers game to fix those future years.
All right.
Any other questions?
Could you remind me the name of the taser provider?
Axon.
Axon. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right. we're going to just see as many students as we can see. So we're going to be super informal. So just if you are ready, come on up to the microphone, give us your name. I don't think we need your address, and just what do you want us to know?
And,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
so I think the setup is just that we have a group of Xavier University students here who, as part of a class project, have been keeping up with Norwood, let's say, going back to August. I think the first week of class was to attend a city council meeting. And so throughout the course of the semester, they have had a couple other touch points with local entities. I've spoken in class once. And so this is sort of the culmination of their sort of civic engagement policy class. And they are, each of them have chosen topics pertinent to local government. And across both this meeting and the committee of the whole meeting tonight, they're going to share their public comment over the course of a couple minutes about issues they care about, the first of which there's a group of students that have housing-related issues. And then for committee of the whole, there are students that have, let's say, assorted other municipal issues that they're going to speak about. So, yeah, please.
Okay. Good evening, council members, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Jamison Sawyer. I've lived in the Cincinnati area for 19 years, and I am currently a freshman at Xavier University. I'm here to share my perspective on the proposed Factory 52 expansion and what it means for neighborhoods nearby. The area directly adjacent to this next phase wasn't originally built for higher volumes of traffic or heavier pedestrian activity. So it's important that we think proactively how to manage those changes. First, research on mixed-use developments shows that they don't always create a level of car traffic people expect. When residents can walk to shops, restaurants, or services within development, peak hour trips can be lower than in traditional standalone housing. So it's important that traffic estimates reflect how mixed-use communities actually function. Second, street safety is a major concern for people who live around this project. Improvements like well-marked crosswalks, better lighting, curb extensions, and speed management can make significant difference in how safe an area feels for pedestrians, children, and families. Third, a strong project-specific traffic impact study would provide a clearer understanding of what improvements are needed. A study that accounts for mixed-use travel patterns, walking activity, and nearby residential streets will help ensure that traffic and safety solutions match real conditions. Finally, having a clear, transparent mitigation plans, whether for construction impacts, traffic management, or pedestrian improvements, can create predictability for both the developer and the community. With well-defined commitment and ongoing monitoring, this project can grow in a way that supports safety across neighborhood safety, access, and quality of life. Thank you for your time and considering the community's perspective as you move forward in your decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Riley Singleton, and I am a student at Xavier University. And for the last few months, I have been paying close attention to the development of Factory 52. I'm here tonight because I care about this community and about making sure growth is seen by residents. The Factory 52 development has brought investment to Norwood, and there's no doubt about that. And I'm sure people like me approve of that. But as the project keeps expanding, it's also clear there are lessons to learn for future development in the city. Residents near Beach Street are worried about safety with there being more traffic, more dust, more noise, and parking problems on streets that were not built for this kind of activity. These aren't just small annoyances, they affect daily routine and overall quality for the people who have lived here for years. Another big lesson is communication. Many neighbors have reported feeling confused about zoning changes or why certain city decisions were made. When information is not shared clearly, it harms the trust with residents. A good thing to take away from this is how the development gives you chances to improve how big projects are handled, with sharing updates early, explaining what's happening in simple ways, and thinking carefully about long-term impacts on safety. These improvements help development succeed without causing unnecessary problems with residents. And I think to help these problems, there are a few steps cities and developers could take. One idea is to create a basic traffic and safety plan for the nearby residential streets. This could mean adding clearer signs, better crosswalks, or limiting heavy construction vehicles on the smaller streets. And before any phases move forward, the city could do an impact check to see how things such as parking, traffic, and safety might change. This helps catch these problems early instead of waiting for them to affect people's daily lives. Factory 52 and any further development do have the potential to be assets towards Norwood. And taking the lessons away from this project ensures future growth benefits for everyone, both new residents and people who have called Norwood their home for years. So thank you for your time, and thank you for working to make Norwood a great place to live in.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marie Vons. I'm also part of the Factory 52 collection of students in Xavier University. I will express both my feelings towards it as someone who is from two growing cities, Richmond, Virginia, and Atlanta, Georgia, and as an outsider who is currently a resident in Norwood. As a resident of two growing cities, I have seen firsthand what development can have good and it can have bad. The double-edged sword of development is the difference between a growing population and staying in the past. As already said, Norwood residents have expressed specific reasoning behind their passionate activism against the Factory 52 development, such as the traffic congestion, the noise, the dust, and other complaints that bother their daily life. They also speak a lot about the lack of communication and lack of information to find on this development. As someone who is also trying to find information on this development like a resident would, I found it very hard to find true and critical facts. The complaints reveal a significant perception gap, and residents feel development benefits the newcomers rather than benefiting them who have been here longer and who have continuously stayed amongst the confusion. This in turn has put us in an active situation of trying to figure out, is it worth it just for the fact that we can have a few more rather than losing? I hear fear and I hear frustration and I empathize with it. However, how can the community prosper while also keeping the peace? Council, I implore you to consider the following of solutions. I believe a revisit on the PUD standards and a reduction of ambiguity could help. Sorry. Norwood zoning and PUD process may need a clearer criteria for the density increases, stronger buffers for residential bordering area boarding developments, and explicit rules for phased approvals. Norwood has become my home, and I want to make sure that my home is just as prosperous as it belongs to be. I'm thankful for the various citizens who have spoken out, and I hope that they continue to speak out, because that is the way that we make change. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kira Connolly, and I am from LaGrange Park, Illinois, but I'm currently a first-year student at Xavier University. I'm super excited to be given the opportunity to speak with you guys in regards to an issue that I've been researching this entire semester, affordable housing. As a young person, it is extremely anxiety-inducing to see the state of the housing market and realize that you may never be able to own a home or live in many towns or major cities due to raising housing costs. Affordability is an issue that is top of mind for many individuals, both in and out of Norwood, but that worry mainly boils down to rent and how they're going to be able to afford to stay in their homes and not become unhoused in the near future. There is a massive gap in the market of affordable housing. The fact is that statewide, affordable housing has lessened over the course of this year, with 263,083 affordable housing units compared to 267,382 housing units in 2024. This gap is partially due to the lessened federal low-income housing subsidies provided by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, but it also originates from the fact that for a long time, state and local governments of Ohio didn't make affordable housing a priority until their constituents were being effective on a mass scale instead of being proactive in their policy. Now, moving to Norwood specifically, it should be of no shock to you to hear that 17.5% of Norwood residents live below the poverty line, which is greater than the state's average, meaning that a substantial chunk of the population is concerned about how they are going to afford to live within the city and are in need of affordable housing. Our current supply in the city doesn't meet the demand, and our system is currently failing a substantial chunk of its residents. But council members, the current system doesn't meet the needs of affording city, but that doesn't mean that the issue of affordable housing is a lost cause. There are many things that we can do that would substantially improve the situation at hand and would greatly benefit the lives of our community members. While the council has already taken some steps towards success in this venture, such as allowing multifamily homes in the zoning code and taking advantage of the Affordable Housing Leverage Fund provided by Cincinnati, there are a few areas which council could explore in order to increase the affordable housing supply. One of these ways the council could do is support the building of affordable housing is to continue exactly what we were doing with the PLK development, and that is providing subsidies to developers that are willing to cater to the issue of affordable housing, along with prioritizing projects that are made by developers that are committed to this goal. On the tenant side, we also need to make sure that landlords are being reasonable with their requirements and rent charges and prioritizing protecting these citizens in their ventures. While I understand that certain national happenings have had an effect on what the council is able to do, it is important to note that the council needs to stand with the people and work towards making Norwood a safe and affordable place for all. I thank you for your time and hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. Let's pause for just a moment. The committee of the whole is supposed to be at 6. Is that correct?
I think 6:30.
6. I thought it was 6:30 as well. One sec. We look on the board here.
I don't see Mr. Gears, though.
Advertised at 6.
I don't know.
I specifically talked to Joe about this.
I had the agenda up.
Okay, so committee of the whole is at 6, which is now. So we still can listen to all of these statements. Maybe John's making a face. He's making a big face. we're trying to do all the things. My suggestion would be that we pause for a few, begin the committee of the whole, and have them speak at the committee of the whole. Does that work for the rest of the folks here?
Sure.
Rather than, that work? Okay, so we are going to, what? Sorry. Okay, so we are going to break for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to start a brand new meeting. All right, so go ahead and pause us, Steve, and we will reconvene.